Hi, I'm here with Claude Two Elk. We are holding this interview at the Dakota Indian Foundation. Claude, tell me a little bit about yourself.
Well, I first want to say greetings. Okay, Chawasha up at Chuzapalo, and shake your hands with a good heart. My Lakota name is Tokala Hochoka Waokia of Money.
And that means Two Elk.
That means that that's my original name. I just received that name in 1996.
Okay.
My grandfather's name is Hechaka Nupa Pijuta Yuhamani. And that means that he had the power of two elks. In our Lakota culture, elk is the symbology of love. And there's a different concepts, there are different interpretations on that, but I always believe that he was a very gentle grandfather that also carried a lot of energy. He was with Tarashunka, we'd go, a grandfather, Crazy Horse, who surrendered at Fort Robinson.
The Crazy Horse with a monument in,
yes.
in near Rapid City, near Custer.
And so he surrendered with Tarashunka, we'd go, grandfather, Crazy Horse at Fort Robinson.
Are you related to Crazy Horse?
Yes, I am.
Oh, okay, it's interesting to know. What does it mean to you when you go to Custer and you see the monument of one of your ancestors or people you are related to?
I often wondered about my grandfather because he was one of the so-called resistors, and he was the last to give up and to surrender and live on a reservation, and I admire that. I admire that resistance because he hung on to our culture and our language. And his grandson, my grandfather, his name is Robert Two Elk. And Robert Two Elk is a survivor of Wounded Knee. And he and his sister and three other Hakojas left with snuck out of the battle or the massacre that happened at Wounded Knee in 1890. And our family have our own story. We have our own story of how my grandfather survived with his sister and three other grandchildren that my great-grandmother, Earth Nation woman, gave. I know if he didn't survive, I know I wouldn't be here today.
Yeah, obviously, quick question, Crazy Horse, what is his name in Lakota language?
Tashunka would go.
Tashunka?
Tashunka would go.
Okay, I don't dare to try and repeat it, it sounds difficult. Okay, so that's in a way, it's quite an exciting story, sort of where you trace your heritage. You are a tribal elder as well within the Sioux Nation, that's right?
Yes.
How would you describe the status of the Sioux Nation today in 2014? I mean, it's a long way, isn't it? When you look at the Sioux tradition, it's long. I understand a lot of things have been written down about the Sioux Nation by Sioux people in the past.
Yes.
So it's a long journey. What is the status of the Sioux Nation, if you could describe it in a few sentences, in 2014?
Today I speak as a 61-year-old. My birthday was in April 1953, and I've been here on Mother Earth for 61 years. And I listened to a lot of my grandfathers and grandmothers when they spoke, and part of our traditions to listen to the advice or the wahokunka that they used to give us. And wahokunka is spiritual advice for survival. And I talk about that a lot in places that I work and with the young people I work with. We've come a long way. I see a lot of our traditions and our culture is slowly disappearing. The respect and honor of the people is slowly going out the window because this wichokuja, this sickness that our grandparents and for many generations have talked about, this wichokuja coming to the people. And this wichokuja is growing rapidly, very rapidly on the reservations, our communities, and our extended families. It's affected our young people. I'm a counselor with our tribal JDC, and I see, I've been working with our children's court since 2003, and I see we've come a long way. I've seen that we need to go back to understanding our ways and traditions to once again be a proud nation and bring back those good ways that our grandparents and grandmothers used to live a long time ago.
I know from what I've heard and what I've read about the Sioux Nation that there is an extensive history, possibly more than with other tribes in North America, native tribes in North America. So you've got like a huge heritage you can put your culture upon. And let me sort of move back. I mean, you are now a tribal elder. You didn't used to be a tribal elder all your life. What was it like for you when you were a young Sioux American citizen or Sioux American? What was your identity when you were sort of in your teens? Were you rebelling against the old traditions, maybe as some of the youngsters are doing today, or were you rooted in your traditions based on what your parents were telling you? What was it like? I know where you stand now, and I think it comes out in the interview that obviously there's something very precious and very valuable about the Sioux Nation and about your tradition and your heritage. But what was it like for you when you were young?
Yeah, as I look back on our past and even way before my lifetime, I see the ceremonies and our way of life come from a pejuta, a medicine called love, L-O-V-E. And today we call it ceremonies, and it came from understanding of our Chinupa, Wakan, our sacred pipe, and also the teachings that that Sami, White Buffalo Calf woman, brought to the people, and the teachings, and I always call them universal laws that we had to live by.
What did you do as a youngster, as a teenager? Claude Two Elk teenager.
As a youngster, I was raised out in the country from 0 to 9 years old, and I'm very happy I was raised that way because out in the country we spoke one language, our Lakota language, yes. Today we prefer to be called Lakota. The French people gave us the name Sioux.
Okay.
So we like to be called Lakota or Dakota or Nakota, depending on the dialect. But I was raised that way, and I seen a big difference.
So when was your first exposure to Western culture? After sort of being 9, 10 years old? Or?
First thing I seen was the exposure to Christianity. In a little town, less than 100 people, there was 9 churches, Christian churches, and a lot of our relatives did not really have. I felt that they were kind of chasing each other around from church to church because even the Christian leaders were even saying things towards each other about which church was better, and it created confusion, and it created And that confusion also grew to a time in 1987 when I went back to the same community. Next I seen 9 sun dances going on, and our people are still, we still have disunity. We don't have unity. We need to have unity, and of course the word love comes in play, because it's caring and respecting each other in a good way. And explaining today to a young person what is love, the difference between love and sex is, it's hard for them to understand. And so some of those things that I talk about, I usually help them understand the concepts and the basis of love. And it's been with us for many years. And somewhere along the line, we've kind of lost that connection to that, where now we have a lot of angry relatives, a lot of relatives who can't get along anymore. And we see a lot of the honorings and the unity slowly being dissolved. As of today, there's other cultures such as gangs, and the alcohol world and the criminal world has really grown in our communities, where we've accepting what used to not be good as normal today.
Okay, that's not good. I mean, I kind of think it's almost universal when you, regardless of which culture you look in the world, there's sort of some decadence which has crept in and is creating problems. What is the answer? I mean, so far, I mean, what I've heard is, so a lot of changes have taken place between your youth, when you were a young Lakota, and now you're a tribal elder. What is the answer? I mean, which way would you like to push your nation to embrace, let's say, to embrace good things? Yeah? You were talking about love, which real love, which obviously is probably, you know, what every culture wishes for, what every person, every human wants. How can you encourage people to abandon a life of dissipation, of crime, and to embrace a life of respect and love?
I've been in the field of counseling and seeing things and experiencing things myself, and growing up into our communities and the way we used to be in my own family, and seeing that we need to first look at the 7th direction, which is the most important direction, I believe.
Okay.
I use that as my counseling method. And
tell me about the 7 directions.
Yeah, the 7th direction is yourself. We have 4 directions, which is the 4 directions from the west, the north, the east, the south, and they each stand for a nation, and they all, each represent some type of influence with our life. Mm-hmm. And the 5th direction is the Creator above us, that we understand Him as the Wambliglishka, as the spotted eagle. Mm-hmm. And the symbology of the spotted eagle is standing for Creator.
Okay.
And then Mother Earth is the 6th direction, Ina Makha. And then we need to look at the 7th direction, which is the most important direction, is yourself. And in order to help another relative, you need to deal with yourself. You need to work on yourself in a process of healing, in a process of cleansing, understanding these sacred rights that we as men need to understand, and women, in the path that our grandfathers and grandmothers used to live by, this Chanku Luta, this red road that they used to walk in balance and harmony. And that's what we need to do. We need to find that balance. We need to find that harmony to get along once again use that as that balance and harmony will help you with working with other nations and how to be in balance with Mother Earth and the greater family that we live with.
Okay, yeah. Claude Two Elk, you have written a book, and I understand the title is still in discussion. Yes. Tell me a little bit about your book.
Well, I started out in 1991. The book is called, I just temporarily named it Spirit-Based Knowledge, and trying to get an understanding of the teachings. There's physical teachings, there's mental and spiritual teachings for the body, for the mind, for the spirit. And trying to sustain that, because we've come a long ways from I believe, a controlled spiritual life that our grandfathers lived and knew how to take care of negative energy. And when they camped in a big circle, imagine the 7 council fires coming together and finding peace and harmony. Today, if you bring the 7 council fires together, you're going to have a lot of people and a lot of chaos, because a lot of us don't get along. And so those are things that all of us need to look at, and to look inside each one of us to work on ourselves, to help each other as relatives.
Okay, your book, once it comes out, so I think for anybody who watches this video, it's important, bear the name in mind. It's Claude Two Elk. Is it going to be written under the name?
I'm thinking about Yotan Chila, which means, some have said it, I put you in the highest regard or the highest respect. Some say it stands for I love you. And just looking at that, I sense a lot of historical trauma, a lot of things that our relatives went through, and going back and respecting our women of our nation, and once again make the women of our nation strong, and also the men and the families, and looking at a healthier nation down the road.
Okay, the book, is it only for Lakota people, or is it for everyone?
It's universal, because I always believe we all came from one circle.
Okay.
At one time.
Okay. Claude Two Elk, what is, sort of concluding this interview, what is one of the key messages you would like to give the listener or the viewer?
One of the key messages I would leave for today's interview would be that, to again, I always believe in honor and respect of the family, for the young, and for those that are still coming. We need to build a strong foundation. They always say, if you don't build a strong foundation, any wind that comes, a little wind would blow this foundation over. If we don't have that strong foundation, we have to build a strong foundation.
Okay. And it starts with honor and respect. Okay.
Yes.
Oh,
I appreciate it. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Claude.
Okay.
Okay.